Welcome back to the Be Ruthless Show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and joining me today is Jen Allen, the CEO of Front Range Family Response Center, a counseling clinic in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. Prior to this, she was a registered nurse and spent most of her nursing career in inner city emergency departments. Shortly after obtaining her master's degree in pursuit of a nurse practitioner career, she lost her son to a very unexpected suicide. This tragic experience led Jen in a whole new direction in life and in her career. Mental health and becoming a support to families who have lost loved ones to suicide became her focus and her mission. Jen's also the wife of Jeremy, an Air Force veteran and psychotherapist. They've been married for almost 28 years and raised two of the most amazing children, Caitlin and Daniel. They also have a bonus daughter, Cassie, and two bonus grandbabies, Colt and Sawyer. Jen spends her free time on the sunny beaches of Florida with her husband and with her four dogs, Roxy, Fraser, Gromit, and Morty. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story and Daniel's. I had to read if it was Kaylin or Caitlin. Even with glasses, I had to look it up. So this is going to be emotional, but important. So you're also sharing this story in Faces of Grief. And I know that that was even a difficult decision to make.
Yes, absolutely. And thanks for having me. I appreciate this very much.
Thank you. I didn't push, but this story matters. So I was hoping you would reach the decision to include your story in the book because people run from the stigma and, you know, people need to talk about it so that others don't suffer in silence.
Exactly. I think it's important too because people don't like to say the word suicide. I'm not afraid to say it. And every suicide is different. They're not always typical. They're not always people who have been suffering with mental illness for a long time. Sometimes they are Daniel and they take you by complete surprise and come out of nowhere. And I think that's important to talk about too.
Tell us about him.
Oh my gosh. He was, or I struggle to talk about him in past tense. He's still very much here for me. He's a character. He always sent me jokes out of the blue for no reason, just other than to make me laugh. And he's always trying to be the comedian in the room and make everybody laugh. And my favorite thing about him has always been that he would literally give his friends the shirt off of his own back. And one of the reasons why this came as such a shock to us, our whole family, was because Daniel had multiple friends who he literally kept from taking their own lives. And so, you know, the fact that he got himself into a position where he felt like that was his only option in that moment was quite a surprise. But yeah, like, you know, he was always looking after everybody else. And I think my husband Jeremy and I were talking this morning, and I think he's still doing that. He's got a couple of friends that are struggling, and I was telling him I don't feel like he's with me right now. And then I had these weird things happen that prompted me to check on these young men, and they're struggling. And so I think he's, you know, still being Daniel and making sure his friends are okay and trying to, you know, put everybody before himself.
There's an important being the one who takes care of everyone else, being in the nursing field, being in psychotherapy field. It's even more important to talk about why we need to reach out and why we need to be able to slow down and take care of ourselves, because that moment comes when we're not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I actually tried to share that message with one of the young men that I reached out to this morning. So many of us try to do all of this alone. Like we think that we're not good enough if we need help, or I'm not man enough if I have to reach out or lean on somebody. And that struggle becomes too much. And I think leaning on people, especially when you need help the most, shows strength and shows that you care about yourself as much as you care about all of the other people that you're trying to take care of.
And in order to be there for them,
Right.
we need that, right? And so I'm approaching 6.5 years without Jim. Last week, my dad got a little frustrated with me because I was not okay. Not that I wasn't okay. When I'm not okay, I will lose track of, like, I forget dates. I forgot it was the end of the month. I forgot. I lost track of time. And he's like, that makes no sense to me. I don't understand how you cannot look at a calendar, which is on your phone. And I had to explain to him that it doesn't matter if it's been a week. Sassy could hear my voice cracking and came to check on me. A week, a month, a year, 6. That when you get in the cycle, whatever it is for you, for some people it's sleep, for some people it's something else, but I will somehow forget what part of the month it is. And
Yeah.
that's my thing. And it's happened multiple times. I've forgotten somebody's birthday, which is just not me. I can tell you everyone's birthday and remind you.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't get that. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
So it shows up.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because I I like to say I suffer from what I call grief brain. Um, and to me, it is like ADHD on steroids. Like sometimes I find myself wandering around my house. It's like I'm looking for something. And I believe in my heart, I'm looking for my son who's supposed to be here. Um, and I forget everything. Like my desk right now is my dining room table downstairs because we have that puppy, and um, it's just papers and sticky notes everywhere because if I don't write every single thing down, it is gone out of my mind forever. So I can totally relate to that forgetfulness and that I don't know. I like to speak for myself. I feel lost half the time. Like I said, like I'm searching. So I like that you bring that up. And I think it's something that people forget about with grief. And if you've never experienced it for yourself on a deep level, you just don't understand. And so people do look at you like months and years later and wonder why you're not okay yet, why you're not over this. And so the short answer is you never are.
Right. And people understand there's a window that people accept it in the beginning. They tolerate certain things because you're grieving, but the world does expect us to get back to the level of functioning that we were at
Yeah.
by a certain point, and we look normal.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think about like in the early days, I say that like I'm not still early. I'm still so early in this. But in the very early days, I wished so badly that people could see the hole in my heart. Like um, walking through the grocery store and talking to the cashier hurt. Like it physically hurt to speak and to breathe. But no one could see that. No one could see what I was going through, and it felt lonely, even though my family is right here, going through it with me. Um, and it felt like I was being completely missed by the world. And it was frustrating to have to do life and act like, nothing was wrong with me when I felt like something was so, so wrong with me. So it's not fair that we don't have a way to let the world know, like, I'm going through the shit right now, and I can't be nice to you.
And I agree, right? And I still want that. Like,
Mhm.
some days I'm fine. Other days I'm like, I need a sash or something to let you know, not okay. And if you say the wrong thing, I might lose it. Other people are offended by that and don't want people to know. And I feel like that's part of what adds to the stigmas and what adds to people not knowing what to say, not knowing how to act, and being afraid of the conversations. And so I'm okay with the whatever we come up with, because there are challenges I go through every single day before 6 a.m. that no one sees. They just see me functioning and think life is a breeze now.
Yeah, yeah. We do. We run from grief in this country harder than we run from aging, which says a lot because we run from aging. And it's sad, and I don't understand it because none of us are going to get through this life without experiencing grief on some level. Like, we're just not. We're going to lose brothers and fathers and mothers and sisters and spouses and children, and you name it. We're going to lose people that are important to us, and we need to figure out a way to embrace that and share in that together, and not take food to people for 2 weeks and then expect them to be okay.
And tell them what way to handle it, whether that's what they would do. Because I certainly got the get back to work. You need to be working,
Right.
and you are no longer in Colorado,
Right.
and people don't understand why you're not here.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe a month and a half after Daniel left us, we picked up and left and went to Florida. Came to Florida, I should say. And yeah, there were some people, in our life that were like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, you should be resting, or, you know, taking care of yourself." And my answer was, this we are taking care of ourselves. Like, leaving this place with memories of bad things all over is taking care of ourselves. And I feel very lucky in that, um, through this process, I haven't had anybody say anything horribly stupid to me. Like, that was, I think, the questions like that was like the worst thing. But I'm in a lot of support groups, especially for moms whose children pass with suicide. And I hear some of the most horrible comments being made to parents who are grieving the loss of their child. And that's one of the things I want to make sure, we do in the work that you and I are trying to do, is help people learn how to treat people who are grieving, and help them understand that this is so personal, it's so individual, and they're never going to get over a loss like this.
I have someone who reached out. Her son lost his girlfriend, fiance, and is doing exactly what you're saying. She doesn't know what to do or say, and she's just asking me everything. Thank goodness, because does he have too many pictures out? This looks like a shrine. Should I be concerned? Absolutely not. That's what we do. We want to surround ourselves with every picture and every memory, but the mom is concerned. So thank goodness she has someone else to ask instead of smothering him and making his pain worse. We didn't, people in my life didn't have that. We are trying to give that to others. People are afraid and don't know what to say. And when I said to her, you cannot fix it, or you cannot bring her back.
Yeah.
Just be there. That was pain relief for her. So to anyone watching, listening, we know you want to make it better for us, and you're struggling with what to say and what not to say. Saying nothing and waiting for the perfect thing also can be painful for us. So please know that you can reach out to professionals. You don't have to make the appointment for someone else. You can just say, what do I do? How do I be there? Do the research for you. He's not ready. She's not making appointments for him. She's not doing the work. He's not there yet. She's just saying, help me be the best mom I can be.
Yeah. I get a lot of questions and see a lot of questions just like that. People, witnessing loved ones go through this grief process. And they're always asking, what do I say? What do I do? And my answer is always ask that person, what can I do for you right now? And I like to phrase it that way because when people ask me a week after my son died, what do you need? My answer in my head, screaming, was always, what the fuck do you think I need? I need my son back. And I couldn't, it was hard I never said that to anybody, but I wanted to, but it's hard to break through that. So I always tell people, ask, how can I help you right now? Or how can I be here for you? And they're going to tell you 9 times out of 10, in my experience, they'll let you know, I just need you to sit here. I just need a hug. I just need somebody to scream at. I, just need whatever. I need somebody to clean my house because I can't get out of bed. They'll let you know. So don't be afraid to ask what can I do for you?
And you can give choices, because decisions are so difficult, right?
Yeah.
I'm bringing food. Do you want chicken or meat?
Yes.
Break it down, because the open-ended questions for me were stressful.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. I remember standing in my closet in the morning of my son's celebration of life, and I'm standing in my closet trying to figure out what to wear. Like, what do you wear to your son's celebration of life? And those are the kinds of decisions I was having to make on a daily basis. What kind of celebration do I want to have? What kind of urn do I want to put him in? What do I want to do with his things? So I love that you offering just a couple choices to choose from. That's incredible, because when you're making these kind of decisions, nothing else seems to matter, so much so that you can't decide.
Yeah. And so there are some people will tell you, and some people might say they don't need anything. And so if you make it simple and say, I'm bringing you food either way.
Yeah, I love that.
How did you find the support groups and narrow down which to be a part of and which not? Because connecting and getting involved somewhere is so, so necessary.
Yeah, when this first happened, I knew immediately that I did not want the legacy that my son left behind to be my misery. And so I knew I needed to find a way to be okay. And I also had this desire to be around people who are experiencing exactly what I was going through. I know, like, if you ask me now, I will tell you I just love being around people who know grief. Like, I feel like they're my people. But in those early days, I needed moms who lost a child to suicide. And so I searched those groups specifically on Facebook and found a small handful and joined. And then, it was amazing because I could post a picture or two of Daniel and say a little something about him or what I was going through. And all of a sudden, 80 to 100 moms are telling me how handsome he is and how amazing and happy he looked in his photos, and and telling me that what I was going through was okay and that I can do this any way that I choose. And to be with somebody, even virtually, that was not afraid to talk about my son with me was monumental, because he, especially then, was all I wanted to talk about. Like, I remember people helping me in my house, and I'm like trying to put dishes away, and they're like trying to talk to me about the weather. And I'm like, nothing else matters right now. like why are we talking about anything but Daniel? So those groups were really helpful in those early days for that reason. It was a great safe space. And since then, I found there are grief groups for everything on Facebook. So, like sibling loss, child loss due to cancer, and the loss of a spouse, and like so many more. And I think that I can't talk today. Being specific like that in those early moments, I think it's important, so you can get that connection and then you can branch out later.
Did your husband and girls find something right away?
My husband, he went to work, and I thank him for that all the time, because we could eat and live because he helped take care of us. And I ask him all the time, I don't know how do you do that? And so we're finally getting to a point where I can help him not have to do that. You froze up on me, Sam. All right, Sam told me to keep going if this happens, so I'm going to keep going. My girls did not get involved with groups as far as I know, but they have pretty amazing support systems, and they have each other, which has always been really helpful. Sam's going to come back to us any moment, I'm sure. There she is.
Can't believe it did happen.
I kept going for a little bit, and I warned everybody that we knew that would happen.
I was thinking that it was Jeremy's military training that he was able to, stay on task.
I think that helped a lot too. because he does. I was an ER nurse for a really long time, and in an emergency, we're both like cool and calm, and we just like do. This instance was obviously a lot different for both of us. But I really think he knew that I was just not in any shape to be trying to take care of anybody or do anything. And he just took over and took control. And I mean, he did not have a full caseload of patients, especially very early on. And he did take some time off. And, we took care of each other, which I think is really important. But yeah. And then, like I was mentioning, my girls, they didn't do support groups, but my Caitlin graduated last May from Pacifica Graduate Institute and is actually working on being a therapist herself. And she has an amazing support system. Her friends really rallied around her. And she actually met someone who also lost a sibling. And that bond is just important, especially early on. So they're
As a
strong.
family, you guys really united.
Yeah.
You've traveled, like you've done it your own way, which I think is the way we all need to. I don't know if there was noise for you, but whether it's trip, whatever it is, you've just done it together, and I think that's the way.
Yeah. I one of my now friend, Suzanne, who my daughter actually introduced me to because they went to school together at Pacifica. Um, Suzanne lost her son 4 years ago, and so we talk a lot. Um, and her dissertation for her master's program was about how we grieve differently, even in a family system. And so, understanding that Jeremy is going to grieve Daniel deeply, but differently than I do, and Caitlin and Cassie are going to grieve Daniel deeply and different than the rest of us do, has helped us to kind of come together in our grief and helped us to understand that, like, sometimes one of us just can't do certain things, and so we compromise. So, like, for example, this Christmas coming up will be our second Christmas without Daniel, and I'm just not ready to do that, to do normal Christmas. And so we're going to Mexico for Christmas for a couple of, probably a couple of weeks. And just learning how much each of us can handle, and learning how to take care of each other in that has been so helpful for us.
Do you think it's that we are in this field that you've been able to have those conversations? Because there are others that just saying, I don't think I can do Christmas, would be 4 months of work with us before they would say it to someone else in the family.
Yeah, so I feel so grateful that, one, I began working on myself as a person long before this ever happened. If this something like this would have happened to me 10 or 15 years ago, I probably would not be able to have this conversation with you today. I'm also so grateful that my husband went through his training, to be a therapist, um, but he'll tell you going through this changed how he sees grief. So, like, he works with grief with his clients very differently than he used to. Um, but I do think the fact that we already could talk to each other in our family about tough stuff has been helpful. And so I think when grief strikes, finding a family counselor that has experience with grief is really, really helpful, just to help mediate and help them to understand that, like, nobody's in our family, I don't believe anybody's grieving Daniel more, but it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to understand that, even as his mother, as the person who made him, I understand that my daughter is now, Caitlin is now essentially faced with living in this world alone when my husband and I are gone. And that is, a whole other ballgame for her. And so being able to understand that and be there for her, and that is really important to us. And, making sure that she doesn't feel forgotten and doesn't feel like she's been left behind. So being able to discuss these really hard things is definitely, what is keeping our family strong and together.
And grief looks different, right? Going back to work to someone else might look like you're fine.
Yeah.
My dad was diagnosed with a type of leukemia, and my brother went to work. I fell apart.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how he copes and what it looks like, and that it's different. This was 20 some years ago. I didn't understand how he was functioning. And it took these conversations. So to be able to say to someone and have them help you understand your needs matter, being able to say, I can't do Christmas, or can we talk about how to have a family dinner again with one chair empty?
Yeah.
It's important. Those conversations are highly important. And I work with the people who are afraid to have those conversations. So learning to have them is so important, because your grief is more intense, it lasts longer, and you suffer in a way that is more painful when those needs are not. We talked about taking care of ourselves at the very beginning, right? If we're not honoring that feeling, that need, whatever it is, I want to talk about dad more, mom more, whoever. If you're feeling like that's not happening in the household, having someone help mediate those conversations, it can be done. It's being expressed differently. It's showing up in a family member differently, but that doesn't mean they're not grieving or having those emotions. So I love that we're talking about this. And again, it's that stigma of bringing someone in to just bridge the gap, navigate the conversations. And I love that he's doing his work with clients differently, because I feel like I am as well. And I don't think my clients back then would say I did a disservice, but I certainly look at everything differently now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's different when you experience it and you learn firsthand that grief is not going anywhere. And like, no matter what you do, no matter what pill you take, no matter how hard you try to stuff it down and bury it, the grief is never going to change. You change. You have to change and learn to expand yourself and your capacity for love and your capacity to have empathy for other people again. That's what changes and grows. The grief does not shrink. And so, unfortunately, I think sometimes people have to experience that firsthand in order to get it.
What is your vision for your center, and how do you see that changing over the years?
Yeah, so I did this because so I was supposed to take my nurse practitioner exam, my boards, like a week and a half after Daniel left us. Obviously, that did not happen. I was in no shape to take a test. And Jeremy and I took a lot of walks and thought really hard about what I can do. And I was really feeling like I need to contribute to our family and, but also take care of myself. And I knew that I needed some place that could be forgiving, because some days, almost 9 months later, I can't do adulting. Like, I just need to, cry in my office for hours at a time. So we decided I would take over the business aspect of his group practice. And so that's what I've done. And our goals are to expand mental health to everybody. And I know people say that all the time, but then they don't accept Medicaid. And Medicaid patients take up almost 80% of the population in Colorado. So if you don't accept that, you're not providing care to everyone. And they opened up Medicare for mental health providers like us, so we can take care of our over 65 folks and treat them the way they deserve to be treated. And we want to start low-cost therapy for folks who are stuck in that position where they can't afford insurance, but they can't afford cash pay rates. And so we really, really want to make this a place for everyone to get the mental health care needs met. And then I have goals to actually expand it across the whole country. So we have one center in Wheat Ridge, Colorado now, and we plan to find a few more spots to start opening up next year. So we really want to make a difference in the lives of people and our clinicians. So, being a home where the clinicians feel like their mental health care needs are being met and that they feel loved is really important to us too. So
I have not heard that mentioned when I talked to places, and I left. I worked at 1, 2 places, but then a bunch of us all left at the same time. People don't often think about the people who are doing all the work and
yeah.
taking care of everyone. Most of the time, administrators are in a different field. So
Mm-hmm.
that was an important ending.
Yeah, I say this all the time. I was a nurse, and nurses, especially in the ER for some reason, and I'll never understand this, nurses in the ER are treated horribly. But hospitals are constantly asking their staff to do more and then taking away all of their resources to do it with. And so I know what it's like to be constantly asked to do more, to work harder, to put my own self at risk for a company that doesn't care about my well-being. And then I watched my husband, when he was going through licensure, kind of go through the same stuff, where as a student and as a candidate before licensure, just be used and abused by people who expected him to work for free or take, so many clients in a week, and so many clients that he didn't have time to do notes, and then was expected to do that at home on his free time that he didn't have because he was in school and, doing all of these things. And so when we put this idea together, we decided that we needed to make sure our clinicians are treated the way we wished we would have been treated when we were doing the same kinds of things. and we want to create a home, you know, a family for people who work with us. So that's really really important to us, that we treat the people, like you said, that are doing all of the work like they're doing all of the work.
It makes a difference. They'll stay,
Yeah.
and you want it to be that family, because then the clients will continue to go. The people will refer.
Yeah.
It becomes a home base. So if everybody involved in Faces of Grief is doing it for their own reasons. Some people are writing to heal, but in doing that, we all have bigger missions. So here we're trying to change mental health care across the country so that everybody gets the help they need, including the people providing the care, right? I'm trying to use the platform of all of the authors to be heard and seen, to change bereavement laws and funding so that insurance is, so that you're not worrying about the people who can't afford it.
Yeah.
The world should be doing that for you and the people. We shouldn't be doing that. We've been through enough. So this book is more than an average book, and the people writing stories are doing it for a bigger reason. And the stories outside of changing lives and helping people, we all have been through it, but we really all are working to make big differences. Every person has a big, big purpose here, and we're all helping each other. We're all sharing each other's goals. And on July 12th, we have somebody swimming because that's the anniversary of burying her son,
Yeah.
and we'll all be sharing that together. So if anybody watching or listening has connections that can help with this, please reach out. Not just the book, with mental health care centers. The reason this is so different is because everyone will lose someone.
Yeah.
And everyone will go through loss, graduating, moving. It's not just, we have stories in here that are not about death. So if you care about this right now and you know someone who can help in some way, please reach out to us. There are so many ways that you can support, just by sharing the book with someone in your life, by sharing a post. But really, truly, we want to help change mental health care. We want to take care of the people who work in our centers. Every story in this book matters. What else am I forgetting?
When do we get to talk about when we get to talk more about the book?
Now.
Let's do that. Yeah. I'm always super careful because I don't want to say too much. So can you, like, I have a lot of folks that are gonna watch this too. So if you could let everybody know when some of these things are gonna happen and when we get to, talk more about the book and possibly a release.
It's coming out during National Grief Awareness Week, which is December 2nd through the 8th. The publisher picks the actual date, so I don't know. It'll be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week.
Yeah.
It's in editing mode. Our goal is to have a copy in hand for the Visible event in August in Colorado at the end of August. So
Okay.
I would love to actually be able to let people see the cover, get a sneak peek. It is 30 stories. It's 31 authors because one chapter is written by sisters together. What else do people want to know?
I had somebody ask me that yesterday, like what types of grief are being covered in this book, and I only knew a handful. So if you could talk a little bit more about that, that would be helpful too.
We have we have false imprisonment. We have loss of identity to addiction. We have loss of a spouse. We have loss to suicide. We have loss of a child to a car accident, and also the sibling who was driving the car. We have Sean, I think you're watching. If you want to type anything in the comments, if you remember any that I'm forgetting, we have somebody who had over 20 losses during COVID, writing just about multiple loss and loss in general. We have medical negligence, loss of a spouse. We have the group voted that my dog should write a chapter. So an animal communicator is translating Sassy's loss of her dad, Jim. We have a teenager's loss of her father. The mom is also writing loss of her husband. What am I forgetting? We have addiction, overdose, child and spouse, overdose. There's definitely we have mental illness, so not death.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I should have brought my list. Sean's saying I covered most of it, but definitely, is there moving? I don't think there's moving. We have adoption. So we're trying to cover the entire realm and how we healed, or how we got from our loss to where we are now, and how we get through our difficult days still. We want people who are in the thick of struggling now to be able to read it and use some of the things that help us, that we didn't have.
Yeah. One of the things that attracted me so much to what you're doing is that these stories are coming from the people who experienced them. And that was a big deal for me. And earlier on in my grief, looking, like I said before, for that connection, like who has been through what I've been through. And it was hard to find books that weren't written by an expert. And I don't like that word, because I don't think you're an expert on grief unless you've been through it. But they were books written on grief by experts who just study grief, or, just learned about it in school, or they're therapists and they deal with grief a lot. And so this collection of stories from people who I feel like are, in the trenches, or have been in the trenches, and, they're digging their way out, or they've dug their way out. That's going to touch a lot of people. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. And that's their reason. This isn't, I want to be a bestseller, right? Their reason is, I want to help someone. Sibling. We forgot sibling. There were some people who did write more of a resume type chapter, and it wasn't the right fit. This is, I was sobbing on the floor and I didn't have anything to help me. I want to give somebody else what I didn't have. Every person has that motivation. We do have psychologists and social workers in the book that were already in that field when they experienced their loss. So just like your husband saying, now I work differently because I get it in a new way. So it is people wanting to help people.
Yeah, I love that.
How can people connect with you if they want to reach out before the book?
Yeah, I keep my Facebook profile public. I have like the most common name on the planet, so I think the best way might be through Instagram, where my handle is Ninja Nurse Jen, and that way it's a little easier to find me. Otherwise, you're gonna find like 3 million Jennifer Allens on Facebook to go through. And then you can also contact me through our website at Front Range Family Resource Center. You can Google that. It's really easy to find and easy to contact us through there. But yeah, or through you.
Yeah.
Feel free to bug Sam if you want to talk to me about anything.
Any last words?
No, I want to say thank you for this again, for giving me the opportunity to share my story and to giving me a safe place to talk about Daniel. It's very important for folks in grief to have a place where they can talk about their loved ones and know that, the person they're talking to is not going to run away or change the subject or hide. So I love that you give that space to people, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. I always want to hear about him, and I hope you will all buy the book and read his story and Jen's. And until next time, always be ruthless.